this distribution of power. We have already discussed the principle or the doctrine of paramount. We have discussed the property and civil rights. As in the case of paramountcy doctrine, we have finally understood this doctrine to the effect that whenever there is a inconsistency or a conflict between the federal law and the provincial law, the federal law to the extent of inconsistency shall prevail. Similarly, in case of political and civil rights, the provincial legislatures have the exclusive right to legislate, like insurance, property, contracts. It is 92:13. Then the next, see, why we are discussing this chapter, distribution of power? What is the reason? The reason is very simple, that there is a constitutional scheme, and because of the federal character of the Canadian legal system, the powers between the central body and the regional body have been distributed. They have been assigned the jurisdiction to legislate on different matters. Like in India, I've already explained it, like in India we have three lists: union list, union list, state list, and concurrent list. Union list means the Parliament of India has the exclusive jurisdiction to legislate on all the issues or the matters which have been provided under the union list. Similarly, in case of the state list, all the state assemblies, state legislatures have the competence and jurisdiction to legislate on all the matters, all the issues, or the subjects which have been listed in the state list. Then we have a concurrent list also, where both the Parliament of India and the state legislatures have the competence and jurisdiction to legislate. Then we have also studied in constitutional law, when there is a conflict while exercising the jurisdiction and competence to legislate on concurrent issues, which law shall prevail? In case of a consistency between the parliamentary law and the state law, which law shall prevail? You have already read all this. Similarly, on the same pattern, the 1867 Act, that is BNA Act, now known as Constitution Act, has delineated and distributed different powers between the central and the regional bodies, that is the federal parliament and the provincial legislatures. Under section 91, the matters have been listed where the federal parliament has the exclusive jurisdiction and competence to legislate, whereas under section 92, the matters have been listed where the provincial legislatures have the exclusive power to legislate. Now, because we are only restricting our discussion, we are restricting our sessions within the parameters of the syllabus of NCA, for Canadian constitutional law. And under the distribution of powers, this chapter contains first the paramountcy doctrine, second political and civil rights, and then the third and onward we will discuss. The specific part of this is, yes, the matters, because under the chapter of judicial review, we have discussed the techniques, tools, principles to be adopted by the court of law while determining whether the legislative competence has been rightly exercised or not, whether the law passed by a particular legislature has been passed in consonance with the principles of constitution, or we can say whether the legislature has legislated on the matters which have been specifically provided under the list. Then we have discussed when there is a dispute in understanding the nature of the matter, If the matter is very clear, the purpose, the object, the provisions of the Act clearly establishes that this provision or the enactment falls within this particular matter, very fine, there is no dispute about it. Then we can easily, or the court, if the matter is before the court may say that this is a particular matter, like a law has been made by the provincial legislature on the insurance, on the regulation of insurance. We can easily understand that it falls within the political and civil rights, and the insurance is the provincial matter under section 92, and consequently the law passed by the provincial legislature is perfectly valid and constitutional. But when one law on the face of it seems to be a law passed and enacted by a particular legislative body, but it encroaches upon the jurisdiction of the other legislative body, then the principle of pith and substance, finding the nature and object, we have discussed in detail those techniques, tools and principles to be adopted by the court of law while determining the nature of the legislation. Then distribution of power, again paramountcy doctrine clearly gives us an idea that yes, when there is an inconsistency between the federal and the provincial law, the federal law shall prevail to the extent of inconsistency, and to the extent of inconsistency, the federal law has always the upper hand. Then we have discussed judicial activism, judicial restraint. Then the third part is peace, order. First, because my first question was why we are discussing this distribution of power. Distribution of power, we must understand that the matters are listed under section 91, 92 and some of the other provisions of the Constitution, where the legislative powers have been distributed among the central and the regional bodies. But sometime we found that there is a issue which is not clearly demarcated under the Constitution. Then how that power is considered to be a distributive power and the legislative authority has exercised its true and right legislative power. So then these principles help us, the meaning thereby the legislative bodies also, and if there is a dispute, ultimately the court of law also get the guidelines from these principles. So the law has been developed whereby legislative bodies are also governed, that this is the distribution of power principles. Please mute yourself, please. Now, in these circumstances, the distribution of power, the legislative body is also aware. Suppose some matter is not listed, or some matter is there but not properly explained, or the legislative body is not clear about it, then these principles help the legislative body to understand whether this matter for legislation is within its competence and jurisdiction. So this is the reason why we study as a constitutional law student the distribution of powers. So third principle is peace, order and good government. Now peace, order and good government, properly known as POG, P-O-G-G, POG. Now this is actually a residuary power, and the residuary power is to be governed and exercised by the federal parliament. It says section 91 is there. Section 91, it says it confers the federal parliament the power to make laws for the POG, means peace, order and good government of Canada in relation to matters. This is very important. In relation to matters not coming within the classes of subjects of by this act assigned exclusively to the provincial legislature. Meaning thereby, the federal parliament has been given the power and authority to make laws, but that is restricted, means an exception has been carved out that all the matters, all the subjects on which the provincial legislature has been given the exclusive power to legislate, there this power of peace, order and good government cannot be exercised. Now, what are those exclusive areas where the provincial legislature has been given the power? We have already discussed property and civil rights. If any matter which is governing the contract, any matter which is governing the property, any matter which is governing the civil rights of the parties, like insurance, we have already discussed on that particular precedents also. So on these issues, the provincial legislature under section 92 has been given the exclusive power to make laws. So where the provincial legislature has been given the exclusive power to legislate, there this power of peace, order and good government cannot be exercised. But otherwise, if any issue or a matter which do not fall within the ambit of the exclusive clause of provincial legislative competence, then under this head of peace, order and good government, the federal parliament has the legislative competence to legislate on any other matter which do not fall within the exclusivity of legislative competence of provincial legislature. Now there are three branches. One is the GAP, the other is the national concern, and third is the emergency. GAP means, now this residuary power can be exercised for legislation by the federal parliament when there is a gap. Gap means the law or section 91 and 92 are silent and the law has to be made on a particular issue. Then to fill up that gap, the federal parliament has been given the competence to legislate on that issue. This Constitution Act 1867 was made in the year 1867. You are well aware how the technology, how the social system, how the society has developed from 1867 till now. So anything which the legislators at that point of time unable to visualize, that situation may arise now, like telephone, radios, internet, satellite. These were not the normal culture of the governance, culture, society. So to overcome such situations, some legislations are required from time to time. And if we try to evaluate the matters which are listed under section 91 and 92, we found that there is a gap, there is no guidance available to us to legislate. Us means the legislatures, the legislators. So finally, to fill up that gap, under section 91, peace, order and good government, the federal parliament has the competence and jurisdiction to legislate. I'm just giving you a few examples. Those are the decided cases. Now under section 92(13) political and civil rights, 1916 the matters which are of local or private nature in the provinces, those are covered. But if it is not covered, which I have raised the question, so unfounded gaps in the scheme of distribution of power. Now the first case which has been decided, not the first case, but we are discussing as an example as a first case, it is not the first case. Now under the political and civil rights matters, the provincial legislature has the competence and legislate on a law for the incorporation of companies. The law is very clear, and under the political and civil rights, the provincial legislature has the competence to legislate for the laws which govern the incorporation of companies in a province on a provincial subject. Now if someone want to create or incorporate a company which is beyond the subject of provincial subject, then there is no law. The section 91 is not governing and giving us the guidance. Then in these circumstances, to fill up this gap, the federal parliament has the competence and jurisdiction to legislate to fill up that gap. So a law may be made by the federal parliament which governs the incorporation of a company, not on the provincial subjects, but any other subject which is not covered under the provincial subjects. Similarly, in case of treaty bar, now very interestingly, in 1867, there is a provision. Treaty bar means entering into a treaty with another foreign nation, with another nation. But the provision of the BNA Act says that the Canadian Parliament, on behalf of, I'm using the simple word, on behalf of the British Parliament, can enter into a treaty with an international body, that is a foreign nation. Now, after 1982, the Canadian Parliament cannot act on behalf of the British Parliament. British Parliament is not the authority now in existence after 1982. But there is no provision under the BNA Act, that is the Constitution Act 1867. There is no corresponding provision incorporated under the Constitution Act 1982 as well. Then to fill up this gap, the Canadian Parliament means the nation. Now the nation as a national personality, international personality is the federal parliament, and so the federal parliament can exercise this power of legislation and the authority to enter into an agreement, enter into a covenant, enter into a treaty with a foreign nation, or any covenant has been entered into. You are well aware about international law when a nation entered into please mute. Now if
of course
Janvi, please mute yourself. Now, in case of an international covenant, international agreement, international treaty, you are aware that a nation can enter into with the other nations. There are certain UN principles also. Being a member of the UN also requires certain, but those has to be adopted also in the form of a legislation, in the form of an executive order, in the form of an administrative order. If it is to be adopted at the legislative end, then a resolution has to be passed by the parliament. So even though under the BNA Act or the Constitution Act 1867 under section 91, the parliament has no power, but still by virtue of filling up this gap, the Parliament of Canada can exercise this power of legislation and pass a resolution to this effect, or pass a legislation to this effect to give effect to a treaty. Then the third is legislative jurisdiction over offshore minerals. Now, offshore minerals are considered as beyond the boundaries of the provinces. A dispute arose regarding a legislation where there was a seabed of the shore of British Columbia and Newfoundland, which are beyond the boundaries of those two provinces. Then the question arose whether the provinces can pass a law to govern that sea offshore bed or not, mines. Then finally the federal law was passed, and the court has finally upheld that law on the ground that this is beyond the boundaries of the provinces. One, it is a case of national concern. Also, we are going to discuss the next part. And the third and the most important, the reasoning given is, in case we allow the provinces, there may be a conflict among the provinces also. This was a majority view, right? Now the next is case of R versus Crown Gelbach, 1988, marine pollution. Marine pollution was the concern, like then the law was passed by the federal body and the issue was raised before the court to the effect that